Alright, what's going on, guys? I'm back with another video. So last video I did, as many of you guys know, was me speaking about the whole thing about Tony Khan showing footage of the backstage incident between CM Punk and Jack Perry. And I pretty much gave my thoughts about it, about how bad it was. But also speaking about certain people not having the same energy whenever CM Punk initially had that backstage incident with Jack Perry. Because around that time, and Punk, being fired, whatever, what was everybody saying at that time? Everybody was judging CM Punk at the time. Everybody was talking about how much of a bitch he was, how much of a crybaby he was, about how, he's toxic. Everywhere he goes, there's toxicity with CM Punk. In WWE, in AEW, everywhere. Punk is a problem in many people's eyes at the time. But since he's been back in WWE, again, not as much criticism. Not as much. And then once he spoke out against AEW, you got all these people, oh yeah, CM Punk spoke the truth, he spoke the facts, he did all this shit. But now, because he's bashed AEW, now everybody wants to be on his dick all of a sudden. Everybody wants to kiss CM Punk. Oh yeah, CM Punk, this, that. He spoke all this shit. He's not a crybaby in this instance. But when he spoke about WWE, a decade ago, he was a crybaby, he was a bitch, all this stuff. And which leads to this, right? So, this is gonna be like a triple threat, I guess you could say a triple threat style type of video. Tony Khan spoke about WWE, which, at this point, Tony Khan, he should just stop. He should just stop bringing these people up and bringing the. And it's funny because a fellow Asylum member, we spoke about this privately, and it was Remington, and he said that Tony Khan should just stop listening to these people, like stop listening to, stop talking about WWE or any of these other people who criticize the company, and that he should basically just focus on himself. He should just focus on AEW and putting on the best product. Which I agree. That's what he should do. But he spoke on the NFL Network. And he spoke about... He basically compared his company, WWE, as well. So he says, Tony Khan says WWE is the Harvey Weinstein of professional wrestling. And AEW is like the Pepsi of pro wrestling. And I quote, "We are like the Pepsi of pro wrestling. We're up against an evil juggernaut. WWE is our competitor. That's who we're facing. AEW like the Pepsi of pro wrestling. WWE is like the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling. I'm really proud of what we do down here." So, first of all, as far as comparing, like you're comparing soda to a person. What Tony Khan should have done was compare like a person, as far, use a person as a comparison to Harvey Weinstein. Like, so this whole, comparing two different things, like that part, I don't agree with him using that type of comparison. Because you're comparing two different things, which I'll agree with many people on that. But as far as comparing WWE to Harvey Weinstein, is he wrong? Like what are we talking about here? Like, is he lying about that? Considering what's been exposed from Vince McMahon? Of all the things that he's done, why not compare the two? They both done the same shit. Towards women, sexual misconduct. You know what I'm saying? So like what's the big deal here? What is so wrong with what he said here? Like what was so wrong about what he said? Like that's what I don't understand. Like even if okay, let's say that this wasn't Tony Khan who said this, right? Let's say it was somebody who does not work for AEW. Let's say it was a legend in the business that hasn't worked with WWE or AEW. You know, let's say, you know, it was Jesse Ventura or somebody who is not really, you know, who's been critical of Vince McMahon, right? Or somebody currently who has a beef with Vince McMahon. Or let's say it was Ryback. Let's say that. Let's say it was Ryback. Because Ryback has spoken negative about WWE and Vince, right? Let's say he said this shit about WWE being compared to Harvey Weinstein. Let's say he compared Harvey Weinstein to WWE. Let's say he was coming from Ryback. You would not see any of these motherfuckers criticize Ryback for saying that. Maybe some, and they'll say that he's bitter or whatnot. But to many others, nobody would even criticize Ryback for making a comparison. But because it's coming from Tony Khan, let's criticize him for saying that, which is the dumbest logic I've ever seen in my fucking life. So you're gonna be mad at a guy and Tony Khan for comparing WWE and Harvey Weinstein. I mean, clearly, the fact that people did not understand what he was saying, I mean, it's pretty clear why he made the comparison. Because Vince McMahon, after everything that he's done, you know, and I've spoken about this, you know, on my previous video, about all the shit that he's done. You know, because there's people out there that believe Vince McMahon's actually innocent against you know, Janel Grant, right? I mean, are we gonna ignore everything else that this motherfucker's done over the generations? So what's wrong with what Tony Khan is saying? What's wrong with what he's saying? I think as far as making a comparison, I think it's pretty much spot on. But again, this is coming from Tony Khan. This is coming from AEW saying this shit. But had this been anybody else, you would not see the same amount of criticism that Tony Khan has gotten. Which honestly, I don't believe Tony Khan should even be being criticized for saying that, honestly, because he's one of the people that believe that Vince McMahon did what he did. I mean, he's just saying what he believes. Because of what he heard. Because of what he's seen. So what's wrong with making the comparison to Vince McMahon, Harvey Weinstein? That's a very good comparison, if you ask me. Even the biggest AEW haters have to admit what Vince McMahon did was horrible. And not just the Janel Grant situation, but everything else that he's done. Everything else he's done. At the Ashley Massaro situation, how he handled that shit. You know, hiring certain people that did fucked up shit and said fucked up shit back into his company. The mistreatment of China when she wanted to come back, and Vince, Triple H, like they wanted nothing to do with her when she was having, you know, drug issues. They didn't reach out, didn't help. Didn't want to. I mean, so what's wrong here? What's wrong with what's wrong with the comparison? It's so amazing to me how you got so many quote unquote fans having issue with what Tony Khan said. Again, like I said already, comparing Pepsi and Harvey Weinstein are not that's not a good comparison. I get it. But as far as the Harvey Weinstein comment in of itself, that's a pretty good comparison. So, like, it's so amazing to me because it's AEW. Oh yeah, that's. But had this been a Ryback, had this been, you know, somebody who has a beef with Vince or the company altogether, had this been any other person that does not work for WWE, that does not work for AEW, and they were to say this shit about, you know, comparing Harvey Weinstein to Vince or to WWE, will there be as much, you know, talk about what they said? No. If not, there would be more people praising them for saying that about Vince and about the company. But because it's coming from Tony Khan, it don't mean shit. With these people's logic. Unbelievable, man. Well, actually, it is believable at this point. And to prove even more how crazy these people are, right? So you got Pro Wrestling Bits. And, you know, it's funny, like, you got all these channels, because this specific channel made another post. What was it? Oh, most cringe Tony Khan moments. You got all these channels, you know, and when it comes to AEW, all they do is just bash the company and talk and post videos about the downfalls and it's gonna fail, blah blah blah. No, it's just all you motherfuckers want it to fail. That's what it is at the end of the day. That's why these people make all these videos, because they want it to fail. You know what I mean? Because they don't want AEW to succeed. They just want the company to fail. They won't admit it, but it's clear as day that's what they want. Again, you don't have to like the product. You don't have to be a fan of AEW. But the fact that, again, these people prey on their downfall, it's crazy to me. They're, oh, I can't wait for AEW to go under. Like, why? Just because you're not a fan of it? Like, it makes no sense. But anyways, this channel, Dark Side of the Ring episode, that has to happen. So they voted which Dark Side of the Ring episode they want, or they believe should happen. And the fact that majority of these people chose CM Punk in AEW over Vince McMahon and Janel Grant. For one, what is so dark about the CM Punk situation? Like, what is so dark about it? About his time in AEW? Like, unless if you're talking about the EVPs and, you know, conspiring, you know, to kidnap AJ Lee or whatever the fuck, that type of deal, then I would understand that. But what is so dark with what CM Punk went through in AEW? Like you're talking about a guy who was in WWE that could have died due to a staph infection. He could have been dead. And you're comparing his time in AEW compared to a situation in WWE where this dude could have lost his life. But what is so dark about what AEW is doing and what they're doing backstage? What is so dark about it? And secondly, so you rather see what goes on with AEW as far as, you know, the bad stuff that happens, compared to a guy who shitted on a female and treated her like shit. You know, and on top of that, all this other stuff that Vince did. I'm glad to know that people hate AEW. These fans hate AEW and Tony Khan, I guess you could add to the mix, more than a fucking rapist, than a sexual deviant. You guys will hate on and talk shit more about a company that just puts on a you know, in their minds, a crappy show or whatever. So you hate them more than a Vince McMahon after what he did. You guys are more critical over AEW than a man who's done fucked up shit in this company. The fact, again, I don't understand this big hate that these people have for AEW. I don't get it. I do not understand it. I don't get this big hatred. Again, you don't have to like the company. But the fact that people hate it to the point where they see that Tony Khan made a Harvey Weinstein comparison, people are criticizing Tony Khan over that. And people will rather see, and also another thing too, as far as cringe moments, one of the options was the Harvey Weinstein comment. That comment got 81%, while the rest of the choices were like 17, 18%, 7%, whatever the case. The fact that got 81%. And also another thing, that this channel made it like if it was a joke that Tony Khan. First of all, it wasn't a joke. It was true. It was how he felt. Like, how was that a joke? It wasn't a joke. And again, what was so horrible, and I guess in this case, what was so cringe, aside from the comparison between Pepsi and Harvey Weinstein? How is what he said, the comparison to WWE and Harvey? What is so bad and cringe about it? What is so horrible about it? And again, had this been anyone else, none of this shit would be said. I don't get these people. I truly don't. I'm glad to know you would have a hate for a company over a fucking rapist. That's wonderful. Like, these people are something else, man. So this is going to be another AEW topic for this video, which doesn't have to do with, the other stuff I mentioned. But I wanted to bring this up because it's so stupid. AEW is all ex-WWE. All ex-WWE. Meanwhile, WWE has gotten a few people from AEW to the WWE. So, what are you gonna say about that? No, instead what they say is, oh, you look at WWE, they're getting all the former AEW wrestlers, yada yada yada. Also, last I checked, WWE for the last decade or so, how many of these people in the WWE currently are former TNA talents, New Japan talents, ROH talents, NWA talents, some AEW talents? Where's the comments then? When AJ Styles, Bobby Roode, Samoa Joe, all those guys, all those TNA stars, whether these people want to admit it or not, became stars in that company. They go to WWE. Like an example, AJ Styles, he makes his debut at the Rumble. Huge pop from the crowd because AJ Styles is in WWE. A guy who was in TNA and became a star from TNA. And he was in other places too, but AJ had a long run in TNA, and that's where he became a star. So AEW is getting all former WWE talents. Meanwhile, WWE has been getting former TNA, AEW, New Japan, many indie guys in WWE. So So WWE is all ex TNA, all ex New Japan, all ex ROH, all ex AEW, right? So where's the where's all this criticism then? And even if they came, even if somebody came from WWE going to AEW, who gives a fuck? Who cares? So they should just stay in WWE and their whole fucking career. These people are nuts, man. I swear. It's just amazing to me that Tony Khan is more hated than a guy in Vince McMahon that has done all the fucked up shit. It's so crazy to me. Like, again, I don't get this big hate that these people have for AEW. I don't get this big hate that these people have for Tony Khan. You know, I mean, does Tony Khan say and do stupid shit? Absolutely. But these people just overhate the guy. It's insane. These people hate on Tony Khan as if he is Vince McMahon, doing all the fucked up shit that he did. But again, you could not like a product. You don't have to be a fan of a product. But these people just overdo it. It's like as if WWE doesn't make mistakes, as if WWE don't say or do stupid shit. They've been doing stupid shit for the past decade. But ever since, Vince is gone and Triple H is taken over, I mean, me personally, it's cool what WWE's done. WrestleMania 40 was decent. They've done some good things. CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, their little things they're having right now, their feud that they're having right now. I mean, it's pretty good shit, But let's not pretend like WWE hasn't done or made many mistakes for the past decade. So get the fuck out of here with that shit. So, anyways, I'm done. Thank you guys for tuning in. See you next time. Peace.